Music cut short there. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Yaron Brook show on this Tuesday, February 3rd. I hope everybody's having a great week. Maybe somebody on the chat can just verify that everything is good, that your audio is good, video is good, and everything. We are again today dependent on the, let's see if this is working. All right, Dwayne says thumbs up. All right, cool. We are again today dependent on the gods of Wi-Fi, so hopefully it'll go as smoothly as it did last time. But yes, I'm in a different hotel this time. This is Boston. The sun is shining, the sky is blue, and the temperature is, well, now it's 31, but it was 8 this morning, so it is cold. It is cold, and I have to go out into that cold later today to go give a talk at Tufts University. So I will be heading out there after the show today. Let's see. I'm just checking all my panels to see that everything looks good. I think it does. Let's see, that is good. All right, let's jump in. Before we get into the content for today, I wanted to make a correction about something I said last show, because I do this on the Yaron Brook show. When I discover something that I said is false, I try to correct it. And I did say last time when we talked about the Epstein files, that there were photos in the files of Mamdani with his mother, Mamdani as a child with his mother, and Epstein and all of that. Turns out those were all fake, AI generated, didn't happen, weren't real. And that's the challenge with these Epstein files. Not only are some of the files themselves from people who have no credibility, that is, they are files with questionable value to begin with. But then, of course, everybody on the internet takes advantage of that, and ads, and with AI, you can do that easily. I apologize for not checking that one in advance, but yes, limited time, lots of stuff going on in terms of the Epstein files, and I did not check it. So no, Mamdani was not photographed with Epstein. Mamdani is not the love child of Epstein's mother, of Epstein and Mamdani's mother. None of those internet claims are true. I don't think I mentioned the second one, but the first one is clearly untrue. So yeah, that is kind of my mea culpa. Sorry, apologize for that. If you notice that I make a mistake, you can easily and respectfully, most of you don't do it respectfully, but anyway, you can respectfully comment and let me know that I made a mistake, and I will try to correct it. Oh, I see some offerings to the Wi-Fi gods. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The Wi-Fi gods very much appreciate it, and let us hope that they are listening, paying attention, and that your dollars sway them to let us do a whole show without interruption, without any interruptions. All right, let's see, where are we? I think the biggest story right now that is floating out there, and sadly, we don't know much, and it's hard to tell where all this is going, is the Iranian story. You know, to remind everybody, Donald Trump promised the protesters that the United States would go after the regime if the regime killed any of them. The regime landed up killing somewhere between, it is assumed, again, this is not, I have no way to verify this information, but it is assumed somewhere between 30 to 40,000 people, and Donald Trump has so far done nothing. Now, it is true that over the last few weeks, significant military assets have been moved into the Middle East for a possible military action against the Iranian regime. And it is, it's going to be, but so the assets are there, but no indication yet has been regarding any kind of military action. Now there is still some speculation, and again, hard to tell, that air defense systems are still being brought into the Middle East. By some accounts, air defense systems were being dismantled in Japan and shipped to the Middle East, and they're really beefing up air defense system throughout the area to defend Israel and to defend the United States Arab allies in the region. But over the last 3 weeks, Trump has basically changed his tone from locked and loaded, and we will make them pay, to a tone of reconciliation, to the idea of negotiation, to the idea that that a deal is what he really wants. He wants to cut a deal with the Iranians. Different interpretations in terms of what that deal would constitute have been presented. At the bare minimum, it seems like what the Trump administration is an end to the nuclear program, an end to the expansion of ballistic missiles, an end to the support of the terrorist organizations, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and others, regional allies. Just as an aside, none of those, not a single one of them, aids the people of Iran, and not a single one of those is in support of them. That is what, again, it shouldn't be the focus of American foreign policy, but given that Trump promised and to support them, none of that helps them. None of that promotes freedom or liberty for them. None of them changes the horrors that they have witnessed and are likely to witness in the future. So, while this is all completely expected, very disappointing. Very disappointing for many people, right? Now, some of this is bewildering, right? Because we were told over and over and over again that in June that the bombing with the B-2s basically destroyed Iranians' nuclear capabilities. That is, the Iranian nuclear program was dead. Trump told us this. All his generals told us this. It was a huge success, we were told, and the nuclear program was finished. Indeed, when there was a leak from military intelligence suggesting maybe this only slowed them down for a few months, Trump and Hegseth freaked out and called it, called it false and worse than that. And yet now, the number one agenda item that they have is to stop the Iranians from developing nukes. I thought that was already done. Supposedly on Friday, there are going to be talks between the United States, Iran, and a number of supporters, a number of United States allies in the Middle East. So Saudi Arabia, Qatar might be there, UAE might be there, a number of these Arab countries would be there. This is where the negotiations are supposed to happen. Now, Iran is up to its usual tricks and delays and delay tactics and so on. It has already announced that no, it doesn't like the idea of doing this meeting in Turkey. They would like to move it to Oman. And they don't want all these other Arab countries. They want to just one-on-one with the United States. Now, I don't know how genuine this is. I don't know what this actually means. It's probably just delay tactics. It's probably just to throw a wrench at it, wrench in the negotiation. It's supposed to rattle the cages a little bit for the Americans. I don't think any of this is really material or makes much of a difference. At the same time, Witkoff, Qatar Sheikh Witkoff, who has vast now financial interests in the Middle East, has seen a large investment by the UAE into his business, the Qataris into his businesses, and who knows what else. I mean, the guy's one of the most corrupt government officials in American history. Anyway, Witkoff, who seems to be an advocate for the Qatari government, not for the American government, certainly not for the Israeli government, is now in Tel Aviv as we speak, speaking with the Prime Minister. He's there on his way to the negotiations with Iran, wherever they land up being held, in Oman or in Turkey, and bilateral, trilateral, quadrilateral, who knows, supposedly to figure out from the Israelis what are the red lines, what is Israel willing to accept and what it's not willing to accept as a deal with Iran. I mean, the very notion of a deal with Iran should be rejected by the Israelis and should be viewed as offensive by Americans. I mean, this president is selling you out. If ending Iran's nuclear program, which he has advocated for since he became president in 2016, this has been a major item for him. If ending the Iranian nuclear, and he bombed Iran in an attempt to do that, if that is the primary goal, and if the goal is to eradicate the threat the Iranians pose to the United States, then military action is required. If the president of the United States drawing red lines, if that requires actually fulfilling those red lines, if we believe that when the president of the United States says, don't cross this line or else, then the or else needs to happen. And the or else here is physical force. The or else here is not, well, we'll negotiate, we'll figure it out. Anyway, Witkoff is figuring out what the red lines are for the Israelis. What are the red lines for Americans? I guess Trump just wants a deal. A deal. That's what it matters. That's what matters. He doesn't want to engage in military activity. He promised MAGA no new wars, and he's not interested in pursuing that track. Who cares about the Iranian people? Who cares about the fact that Iran has cheated, lied about its, oh God, about its previous deals? Remember all the criticism from Republicans regarding the Obama nuclear deal? Well, this is unlikely to be any better. So why the sudden change? It's Trump. It's complete whim worship. I mean, he doesn't want military action. Military action could get ugly. It could get complicated. You have to have a long-term strategy. You have to figure out what you want to achieve. You have to be willing to take casualties. I don't think Trump is willing to do any of those things. Now, he might be backed into a corner where he has no option but to engage in military activity, and the Iranians are dumb enough to potentially provide him with that excuse. We'll get to that in a minute, but it really seems like he is trying to avoid military activity, military action as much as he can. He's selling out Americans, selling out Israel, selling out the Iranian people. He is destroying any credibility Iran the Americans have ever had, destroying the idea of people fearing the United States. I mean, what they fear is maybe the uncertainty, the not knowing what Trump will do, but is that any kind of deterrent? You know, this is destroying the deterrent power of the U.S. Venezuela was a big step forward in terms of, if nothing else, I don't think there was a lot of value there, but the one thing it did is it showed U.S. capabilities and maybe served as deterrent to some of the bad guys in the world. Trump's hesitation, dragging out cowardice when it comes to Iran is going to do exactly the opposite. It's going to take away any deterrent power the United States had or might have. So, yeah, we'll keep watching. In the meantime, the Iranians are being aggressive. I mean, I don't know what the Iranians are thinking, but they're trying to prod the bear or the lion or the tiger. I don't know what it is. Maybe they think that the more they prod Trump, the more he will, capitulate. The less committed he will to military action. But earlier today, an Iranian drone on its way to the aircraft carrier that's in the Arabian Sea. U.S. tried to get the drone to divert from its path. Its path was directly towards the aircraft carrier. So an F-35 was launched and it shot the drone down, an Iranian drone. being aggressive towards an American aircraft carrier. Not sure exactly what motivates the Iranians to do something like that, other than to cause the United States to actually act militarily. Maybe, I don't know. We've got two parties here, I think, Iranians and the U.S., both whom lack any sense of strategy, long-term thinking, and rationality. We've got two parties here who I think are shaped by whim, and that is not good for us. It's not good for anybody, because it's really almost impossible to tell what is going to happen and how it's all going to turn out, and they're both playing with fire. In addition to the drone being sent towards the American aircraft carrier, a number of small attack boats, Iranian attack boats, came close to a ship carrying oil, a ship that actually was American flagged. I'm not sure why it would be American flagged in those waters, but American flagged in the Hormuz Straits, so in the Gulf, and it was on its way, I think, to Bahrain, and and said that they would board the ship. It told the ship to prepare for boarding. The ship instead accelerated away, and ultimately got met by a U.S. Navy destroyer or ship. I'm not sure if it was a destroyer, and sailed away. The Iranians did not pursue. Again, not sure what the idea is. They think they'll have better negotiating power with Trump if they take one of these ships. It's intriguing, the kind of games that are being played right now. Why are the Iranians shifting venues from Turkey to Oman? Why did they agree to the Arab countries joining the negotiation before and not now? Are they just trying to harass? Are they just trying to delay? Are they just trying to distract? It really is hard to tell what exactly is going on. Now, I think overall, probably the most important meeting going on right now is the one between Witkoff and Netanyahu. I hope the Israelis are indicating to the Americans the importance of military action, the necessity of military action. I hope that the Israelis are conveying to the Americans that the very existence of this regime is a red line, that this regime must go. I doubt that. I doubt that the Israelis are making that a condition. They're probably more focused on, the nuclear program. By the way, the tons of refined uranium that the Trump administration claimed to be destroyed, clearly from everything going on right now, they were not destroyed, and their location is not exactly known, because one of the demands Israel is making, and one of the demands I think the U.S. is going to make, is that uranium be handed over to the United States, or to a third party. And there's some reports that Khamenei has already talked to to Putin about the Iranians handing that material over to the Russians. But if that material was destroyed in the attack in June, there wouldn't be any material to talk about. So it obviously was not. So, hard to tell exactly what's going on. It's hard to tell what is true and what is not, what is a game, what is, maybe the nuclear material doesn't exist and the Iranians are bluffing. Maybe the United States did a lot less damage than it thought to the nuclear program, and the U.S. was bluffing. Maybe it's somewhere in between. We just don't know. But everything suggests that the U.S. is eager to get a nuclear deal, which suggests that there's still a nuclear program going on in Iran, and they never abandoned it. Israel is also worried about the ballistic missile program. They do not want thousands of ballistic missiles targeted at Israel. They would like that stopped, dismantled, no new production. It's hard for me to believe that Iran would agree to any one of those conditions, particularly the ballistic missiles. They will cut a deal on nuclear. They have before. They did with Obama. But imagine what would happen if they cut a deal now. Trump lifts the sanctions. Iran sells huge quantities of oil and gets rich. Their money is going to be used for what? Well, they'll pay off their people so that the merchants don't rise up again against them anytime soon. So they'll send checks to everybody for a while. But ultimately, that money will be there to build a covert nuclear program. That money will be used to build more ballistic missiles. That money will be used to undermine whatever the United States thinks that it will achieve in a negotiated settlement. Here's the principle. And it's a principle that has been true throughout history. And it's a principle that, well, it's a principle. And so it's not surprising that people like Trump would evade it completely. And indeed, Israel has evaded it over and over and over and over and over and over again over many, many decades. You don't negotiate with evil. There's nothing to negotiate. They have everything to gain. In particular, there's zero reason to negotiate with evil when evil is as weak in comparison to the United States and Israel as Iran is. Israel and the United States could dismantle Iran. I mean, they could dismantle their offensive capabilities in a couple of days. I mean, think about what Israel did in the 12-Day War. Yes, some ballistic missiles reached Israel and hit. But the reality is that there's a lot more air defense systems in the Middle East right now. So at least 90% of whatever Iran puts up into the air will be shot down, at least. But beyond that, if you have the U.S. Air Force involved, U.S. Air Force has the capacity to destroy, much of Iran's capabilities to launch ballistic missiles before they're even launched, to destroy the launches, to destroy the silos where the missiles are hidden. That would, the chance that they could get off a significant number of ballistic missiles and do a significant amount of damage. They didn't do much damage to Israel when it was just Israel fighting, basically. Now with the United States, within 2 days it would be over, at least that part of it. And then once you get rid of the ballistic missiles and you get rid of the air defense systems, which Israel did very effectively in the 12-Day War, then it's just an issue of now taking out the regime sites that are necessary to weaken them enough so that the Iranian people can overthrow them. And that is, I don't know how long that takes. That takes 5 days, 10 days, 20 days. It doesn't take long. And it's very low risk. The riskiest part of an operation like this is in the first 24 hours, while you're dismantling whatever's left of the air defense systems. There's reason to believe they've bolstered them with supplies from China, primarily, and now they have Chinese air defense systems. But the cost is very low, the benefit very, very high, and yet Trump wants to negotiate. Now, again, you could say he's playing 3D chess, and the negotiations is just a way to delay. It's a delay tactics till he gets all the assets he wants in the area, and then he launches. Maybe. I hope that's right. I hope that's right. So we will wait and see and observe. But remember, good has nothing to benefit from negotiating with evil. Evil has nothing, no positive values to provide. All it can do is stop using force. But given that it's using force, the way to go after it, the way to eliminate somebody using force is to eliminate them. It's to eliminate the capacity to use force. And since Israel and the United States have the means to do that, then they just should and forget about the rest. Forget about the negotiations, which only benefit Iran. It sanctions the regime. It gives them time. It pretends that they are a legitimate player on the world stage. It pretends that it's okay that they're a legitimate regime that we can negotiate, we can talk to, we can have a conversation with. They're legitimate players. But the good has everything to lose, and evil has everything to gain from negotiations. The good has nothing to gain from negotiations. Again, particularly when it's the overwhelmingly strong partner. And the evil has, it has nothing to lose for negotiations. What the hell? Why not? So, as I said, we will indeed see where this all leads us. All right. I will keep you updated. I'll keep an eye out for breaking news on Iran. Again, if an attack actually happens, I will try to go live if it's possible to go live. And here's, by the way, a military source in Israel commenting on the Witkoff and just the negotiations Israel is having with America. So the meeting is now concluded with Witkoff and the Israeli general and I guess Netanyahu. This is a defense official in Israel saying, "We warned the Americans that the Iranians will violate any agreement and that there's no point in trying to reach one. Under an agreement, they won't dismantle their nuclear program or missile capabilities. And part of the reasons they're trying to drag things out is likely in order to transfer offensive weapons to hiding places." So they are, they're probably moving things around right now. Hopefully, Israel and the United States with satellites are monitoring those movements. But Iran is a very big country. It's a very big place, and it's hard. You can move this stuff fairly easily undetected, I guess. But they are moving them to places that Israel and the United States haven't identified yet, and therefore, when bombing, we'll miss. We'll miss. So Iran is delaying. Iran is delaying and will continue to delay. As I said, Trump's. So there's a fourth demand that Trump has now. Nuclear program, ballistic missiles, funding proxy groups. The fourth demand is proper treatment of protesters who participate in anti-regime demonstrations. Well, the Iranians will say what we're doing is absolutely proper. We're hanging them. None of this is actually going to happen. Whatever deal they'll renege on, but it's hard to believe they'll even agree to a deal with those kind of conditions. Although again, it's suicidal for them not to, if they believe the United States will actually act. There is a chance. It is a chance that they will not. All right. We'll keep monitoring and seeing if anything happens that is new. All right. In the meantime, as you know, there is I don't know that we've talked about this actually. There is a partial government shutdown going on right now because a budget was not approved because disagreements about funding ICE appeared in the Senate. The Senate had to take the bill that was passed by the House for a continued resolution that provided money for the government, and they modified it in order to bring in provisions so basically they allowed for funding across the board with funding for ICE for only 2 weeks, in which 2 weeks there would be negotiations to change the functioning of ICE or change the funding of ICE with the Democrats. That bill, because it was a new bill, a different bill than the one the House passed, now has to pass the House, and it's still, until it passes the House, it will not be. It does not become. It does not become a law, and the government stays shut down. Democrats have rallied, and Democrats are refusing to vote for this bill. So they are rallying to keep the government shut and to put pressure on Republicans to come up with a solution for ICE sooner rather than later, rather than open the government up and then negotiate. They are keeping it shut down. Even among Republicans, Speaker Johnson is not getting all Republicans voting, and the fact is that the House majority is 3 votes, I think. So they're having, he's having a real problem trying to pass this bill. 2 Republican House members have said that they would vote against it, and I guess some are just not there, not in D.C. right now to vote, and so without those 2 votes, he doesn't have enough votes to pass the bill. So for now, government is shut down. For now, negotiations will continue. It's kind of I think the technical term is shit show. That just continues, and let's see. Maybe there's just been a change to that. Okay, so a few minutes ago, 20 House Democrats flipped and voted with Republicans to reopen the government, to keep the Department of Homeland Security funded for 2 weeks. So there's a real split now between Democrats, those who wanted to keep the government closed until a deal was cut, and those who agreed to vote for this and spend the next 2 weeks negotiating with Republicans. We'll see what those negotiations lead to. I mean, Democrats are demanding things like body cams. They're demanding masks off. So they've got a number of things that they are demanding in terms of changes to the behavior and actions of ICE. Whether Republicans and Trump are willing to actually agree to that, is going to be hard to tell. Also, Democrats are insisting on what I think is the existing law already, and that is that ICE cannot enter homes without a warrant, a warrant signed by a judge. That's part of their demands that they will be fighting over the next 2 weeks. But there's a good chance that ICE funding will disappear in 2 weeks. So we'll see. ICE not being funded and the rest of the government being funded is actually, I think, an ideal outcome. So hopefully they don't come to a deal, and ICE just stops getting funded, and ICE agents stop getting a salary, and they have to pull them off the streets. I don't know if that's what would happen, but it would be cool if that happened. Also, with regard to ICE, Senator Rand Paul is calling for hearings in the Senate to talk about the shootings and to talk about generally ICE's behavior. So there are some grumblings among Republicans wanting to maybe rein it in, or at least recognize the civil rights of Americans, or deal with the issues regarding the Second Amendment. I guess the Attorney General or somebody from the Justice Department, Perino, who's what is she in D.C.? I think she's the attorney for the District of Columbia. Basically announced that nobody is allowed to bring a gun into D.C., and if they do, they'll be arrested. And the Second Amendment people are just freaking out. So this administration is really pissing off overall the Second Amendment people, who are a big chunk of their constituency. So it is going to be interesting to see how the split between them develops and where it actually leads to. But yes, the ICE issue with this administration, the politics of it, the House, the Senate, continuing. Of course, ICE's abuse. Continue to see videos of ICE abusing people. The latest, I think, came from L.A. We'll continue to see these until there is some binding way in which to restrain them, and we'll see. Maybe this legislation will ultimately be what actually restrains them. I don't know. All right. Let's see. I want to remind you all that, let's see, yes, a real judge, a warrant from a real judge, not an administrative judge, but an actual legal warrant from a judge. Let's see, what did I want? I wanted to remind you all that the show is supported through listeners like you, and can't do the show without your support. And we have targets for every show. Sometimes we exceed those targets, but that doesn't mean that the next show we should ignore them completely. So we're way short on the targets today. So I'm just reminding you to jump in. One of the ways to do that is to ask questions. That's a great way to shape the show because I answer all those questions and I comment on all those questions. So please consider asking questions. $20 or above questions are particularly desirable and get priority in terms of answering them. So please consider doing that. But of course, questions for any amount are I'm happy to answer. But seeking $20, $50, $100 questions needed right now so that we can get close to our targets. Thanks for considering that. And yes, remember, this is your show, provided free, if you will, but only because you support it. If you didn't support it, couldn't do it for free. Would have to find other ways to paywall it and do it otherwise. All right, let's see. Let's talk about. Let me find the right article. There it is. So the Wall Street Journal today. It is yesterday. Yesterday ran a story. Again, in the context of that op-ed by Donald Trump that I talked about 2 days ago, where he was raving about how tariffs were this amazing thing and how it was producing this never seen before economy and how everything was going fantastically well. The Wall Street Journal ran a story yesterday. This is the title of the story. And this is something I've been telling you for months now, but it's nice to see it confirmed by the Wall Street Journal. It's nice to see it. Now we have about a year worth of data since Trump took office to evaluate. And the title of it is U.S. Manufacturing is in retreat and Trump's tariffs aren't helping. The subtitle is Levies on Imports were supposed to bring back a golden age of U.S. manufacturing. They haven't worked so far. And basically what they show in this article is that post-COVID, in the years from 2021, 2022, 2023, manufacturing in the United States spiked and indeed really reached the highest level, in terms of actual production, actual goods produced. And at the same time, employment in manufacturing actually went up and reached levels higher than the levels in 2019. Indeed, they reached levels at around 2022, 23, the highest that they've been since 2008. So manufacturing was seeing a boom in the United States in the post-COVID era. Since then, there's been a slow decline in manufacturing jobs. It started under Biden, but it has indeed accelerated since the tariffs were passed. And the question is, why is this? It would seem that tariffs mean that foreign manufactured goods are more expensive, and that it becomes cheaper to produce them in the United States. So you would see U.S. manufacturing go up, more companies wanting to build in the United States to save on the tariffs. It would be tariffs would help manufacturing. The whole idea is you raise tariffs, manufacturing comes back to the United States, right? But of course, that's not how it works, particularly when you place tariffs on goods that are used in the manufacturing process. Much of what the United States imports are not complete, finished consumer goods. I mean, some of that, toys, some furniture. But much of what the United States imports, or U.S. individuals import, are the raw materials that go into production. So, for example, a lot of companies in the United States use steel. Automobile companies, if you build washers and dryers, if you build a lot of things are built from steel. And if you're a manufacturer in the United States, you buy a lot of steel. Well, one of the first things Trump tariffed, some of the highest tariff rates are on steel and aluminum, which is another basic material that is used by manufacturers. Now, that means that any steel or aluminum they import from other countries is now much, much more expensive. But the reality is that U.S. manufacturers of steel and aluminum have also increased their prices. So prices have gone up by U.S. manufacturers, have increased from U.S. manufacturers as well as the imports. So generally, U.S. manufacturers today are facing much, 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 much higher steel prices than they were a year ago. That makes their products less competitive. That means that they're going to hire fewer people. That means they might even do layoffs. It means that they can't build for the same price. Everything's more expensive now. And that destroys manufacturing. So the quantity of goods is down and the quantity of employment, the number of people working is down. And also there are graphs in this Wall Street Journal article that show manufacturing job openings, which again were very high in the 2001 to 2003 period, and have since then collapsed to below the 2018 levels. So job openings are gone. There were a lot of job openings. There was almost 1 million job openings in the 2023 period, and now it's well below 500,000. So gone down by 50%. Indeed, Nucor, I think earlier today, or first of the month, announced it was raising steel prices again. Nucor is an American company that produces steel, but they face less and less competition because of tariffs of steel being brought into the country. They can afford to keep raising prices. Here's here's an article. Here's a paragraph from the article. With tariffs on foreign steel doubled to 50% this year, Insteel has increasingly struggled, this is a steel company, to get from U.S. suppliers the metal it shapes into wire that reinforces concrete infrastructure. So Insteel, the guys who make the rebar that goes into concrete, right, in construction. So struggle to get the U.S. suppliers the metal it shapes into wire that reinforces concrete infrastructure, such as the Goldie Hawn Bridge. This is one of the reasons the bridge is taking so long, right? A major trade crossing that will soon connect Detroit to Canada. Sorry, this is a new bridge being built between Detroit to Canada. Instead, Insteel has at times turned to trafficking imports from Algeria, India, and elsewhere when there weren't enough American suppliers to go around. Our growth today, they write, could be compromised by the dearth of domestic raw material available to us. In the trucking industry, a years-long post-pandemic slide has dinged firms such as metal component maker NN, the Charlotte, North Carolina-based company, which runs 23 plants in 6 countries, trimmed its U.S. workforce in recent years to compete with low-cost factories abroad, as well as in response to slowing growth in electric vehicle demand. Now, the CEO believes tariffs will ultimately benefit NN by curbing Chinese competition for precision parts that appear in steering systems, audiovisual controls, and more. But meanwhile, import taxes have helped push up costs for steel and aluminum, adding to pressure from soaring market prices for the gold and silver NN uses in some products. That has squeezed how much cash the firm has to invest in new potential lucrative sectors such as data centers and electrical equipment. And you can go on and on and on and see this. Manufacturing construction spending has peaked just before Trump was, about end of 2024, and has gone down quite a bit since then. We talked about this last time. It peaked primarily because of huge government subsidies of the CHIP Act, Inflation Reduction Act, where the government subsidized the manufacturing construction plants. Under Trump, in spite of the tariffs, all of that has come down. Tariffs have hit hardwood from Vietnam and textiles from India and China. Prices go up, and that hurts local industries. So more evidence that Trump's op-ed the other day in the Wall Street Journal was just one big fat Lie. Absolutely lie. No question. All right, let's see. Where are we? All right, we're still chugging ahead, but you guys, yeah. See if you guys can consider doing a sticker or a question or something like that. All right, let's see. That is manufacturing. Here's an unbelievable quote, from Stephen Miller. So this is in response to a breaking news, right? This is from yesterday. A Washington, D.C. based federal judge, Ann Reyes, a Biden appointee, has blocked the Department of Homeland Security from ending temporary protective status for more than 350,000 Haitians in the United States whose legal protections were set to expire tomorrow. A move that would have left them vulnerable to deportation and the loss of work authorization. So, as we know, the Trump administration has been trying to get rid of the temporary protective status so that they could deport all these asylum seekers, in particular these 350,000 people from Haiti. These were the people accused of eating the neighbor's cats, I think it was, in Ohio. And this is what Stephen Miller writes in response to this. An unelected judge has just ruled that elections, laws, and borders don't exist. Now, this is pretty amazing statement. It's a basic negation of the entire basis of the American constitutional system. It basically says that if you win an election, you should be able to do whatever you want to do. If you win an election, you can pass whatever laws you want, you can sign whatever executive orders you want, you can establish whatever immigration or other restrictions, tariffs, whatever you want. That indeed there is no limitation because you won an election. And I guess the role of judges is just to agree. It's just to nod in agreement with whatever the president who won an election or whatever Congress who won an election agrees to. The judiciary should just agree. This is a complete negation of the vision of the American system, which gives the judiciary an important role in determining whether laws are constitutional, whether the application of the law is objective, is being done right, whether the Congress or certainly the executive are not exceeding their authority under the law. That is their job. That's what the judiciary is. That's the whole checks and balances system that we supposedly live under. That's what makes this country fairly unique in the world. That we're not a pure democracy. We're not a pure democracy. We are a constitutional republic. We are government limited by a constitution and limited, ideally, to the protection of individual rights. And everything else should be ruled unconstitutional. And Stephen Miller is just, whoop, that's out the window. To hell with that. No. If you elect somebody, they get to do whatever the hell they want. This is the Donald Trump equals emperor, at least for 4 years, thesis, right? He got elected, and therefore he should be able to do whatever he wants. And nobody should have any way to stop him. Now note that the judge was appointed to a position as a district judge by somebody who was elected, in this case, Biden. That's what the system requires, and she can't just be dismissed because somebody else got elected, Trump. So this is, just a illustration of how much disregard this administration has. And Stephen Miller is a spokesman. He is an influential within the administration. How little regard this administration has for separation of powers, for checks and balances, and for the role of the court system. we indeed do not live in a pure majoritarian democracy. We live in, a democracy these days, limited at least somewhat by our Constitution and by the courts. And that's not a bug. That's a feature. It's not a bug. It's not a vice. It's a virtue. This is good. This is good stuff. And Stephen Miller doesn't care, right? He just wants to be able to do whatever the hell he wants to do. To hell with the Constitution. To hell with the American system of government. To hell with any constraints on him. Any constraints on him. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. All right. I'm just looking at some updates from the Iran thing out of this meeting with Witkoff. Israel supposedly has requested operational freedom from the United States to conduct unilateral military action against Iran, as President Donald J. Trump leans towards diplomacy instead of strikes against the Islamic Republic. That is according to Israeli Public Broadcasting Corporation. But the reality is, there is zero chance, that Trump would give Israel a green light to strike Iran when he's actually considering diplomacy and wants to cut a deal. That's just fantasy. I don't know what Israeli came up with that idea of even asking. The answer's obviously going to be no way, we don't agree, can't get it. All right, I appreciate the financial support, but less chats, less domination of the chat. I don't think it's good. I think it intimidates other people from participating. So I love that you're excited and that you're in there and you're active, but just moderate a little bit. I think just moderation, a little bit of moderation in terms of the sheer number of posts, I think would be good. Okay, let's see. What do we want to talk about next? That was, we did the courts. Oh, fraud. Let me find this story. Yeah. We talked about the fact that all the focus is on Minnesota and Minneapolis regarding the Somali fraud, the welfare fraud of the Somalis, how big that is and how significant that is. And I told you, there's fraud all over the country. I mean, everywhere there's welfare, there's fraud. It's just too easy of a target, and there are people out there that are going to exploit the government handing out money. It's just a matter of figuring out how to do it, but many people are smart enough to do it because government programs are not particularly run effectively or efficiently or monitored that carefully. And there's fraud everywhere, and now it's come out that there's probably massive fraud in LA County in California. Now, this one is one where I think Republicans will pay attention to and might send ICE in, who knows, because it's a Democratic state and they want to make the state look bad, and they want to make the governor of the state who's going to run for president look as bad as they can. So it's possible that they will take this seriously. But here's just a statistic for you. LA County had around 1,900 hospice agencies, more than 30 entire U.S. states. Well, it depends which states. I mean, LA County is a pretty big county. The entire state of Florida has over 22 million people and only a few hundred. LA County had 1,800. And, there are other reasons to believe, that there is more going on in LA County in terms of these hospices and in terms of welfare fraud that is diverting money to all kinds of, shell companies that supposedly are helping in the healthcare space, but there is massive fraud in the healthcare space, right? And we've seen that. We saw Florida healthcare executive involved in a $1.3 billion Medicare and Medicaid fraud scheme, who, by the way, was commuted by Donald Trump. We saw a Florida eye doctor defraud Medicare for $42 million by providing unnecessary treatments. So again, it's much harder to defraud insurance companies. It's much easier to defraud government. It's not helpful that Donald Trump kind of commutes fraudster sentences on a regular basis. It kind of reduces the disincentive to commit fraud when you know that you can always pay off the president and get off easy. But again, there is fraud everywhere. There's fraud in every state, and the U.S. focusing in Minnesota has to do with who committed the fraud. Immigrants, black immigrants on top of that. That's the focus. It has nothing to do with the level of fraud or the size of the fraud. It really has to do with who is committing the fraud and where it's being committed, and what is the political affiliation, or what is the political cost of going after that fraud. All right, so just wanted to point that out. That it's a developing story, I guess, around the LA fraud, and we'll see how much of it actually pans out. Again, these are stories. It's, as far as I know, no criminal case has been brought yet, but people are speculating about this, and I guess the White House is making some noise about it and bringing it up. But again, the only reason they're bringing it up is because it's California. If this was in Mississippi, where I told you there was a big welfare fraud case, not a word. If it's in Texas, or if it's in Florida, or if it's in elsewhere, you're probably going to get commuted if you did commit fraud. So there's clearly a difference between red states and blue states with regard to how this administration treats accusations of fraud. All right, finally, I keep returning to this story in different variations, but because I find it so offensive and so evil and really so despicable that we just have to keep pounding away at it and keep reminding you of what is going on in the world out there with regard to abortion. We've talked about the fact that states like Texas have criminalized abortion and made it impossible for women in the state to get abortions almost under any circumstances. But they've criminalized taking the abortion pill. That is, they haven't criminalized taking the abortion pill, but they've criminalized providing the abortion pill to pregnant women. And so you can get the abortion pill inside Texas. Now, there are a variety of lawsuits going through the courts addressing this. We'll see how they all pan out. But in the meantime, women in Texas who want to get an abortion, including if they know their fetus is damaged, and they're in the first couple of months of the pregnancy, can ask to get the abortion pill from doctors outside of the state. And we've talked about the fact that some of these doctors are being sued by the state. By a number of different states have sued these doctors, but the states where these doctors are have laws that protect them against those lawsuits, criminal lawsuits, right? But now there's a civil suit, right? So a Galveston County man from Texas has filed a lawsuit against a California doctor he accuses of providing abortion-induced pills to his partner. Now, this leverages for the first time in new Texas law that allows private citizens to sue abortion providers for up to $100,000. In July, Jerry Rodriguez filed, I'm reading from the Texas Tribune, Jerry Rodriguez filed the original lawsuit that accused Dr. Remy Coito, I can't really pronounce it, of providing his girlfriend with abortion pills at the direction of her ex-husband. Ex-husbands, boyfriends. It's like one of those episodes of, I don't know, Dr. Phil or something. The lawsuits alleges the woman's ex-husband ordered the abortion pills, Subsequently, Rodriguez's girlfriend took the pills and terminated a pregnancy twice, on September 19th, 2024, and another pregnancy in January 2025. Why is she not using birth control? I don't know. But anyway, Rodriguez claims in the lawsuit that he was the father in those pregnancies. On Sunday, Rodriguez, through his lawyer, his lawyer is somebody who helped design Texas's abortion ban, updated the lawsuit, largely stating the same allegations against the doctor. However, this time, they included House Bill 7 as an additional tool to compel the doctor to pay $75,000 in minimum damages, plus other fees. HB 7, which went into effect December 4th, allows private citizens to sue anyone who manufactures, distributes, mails, or provides abortion medication to or from Texas. Now, it's a kind of a bounty hunter's bill, right? Bounty hunter's law. Successful plaintiffs would be awarded at least $100,000 in damages. If the plaintiff is not directly related to the fetus, they would only be entitled to 10% and would have to give the remaining money to a charity of their choosing. Women taking abortion pills would not be eligible to be sued under the bill, nor would women who take them after miscarriages. So they're now suing people for damages in other states. For what? I mean, nobody can claim that a month or 2 month or any month that the abortion pill is effective that is a baby. It's a clump of cells. And yet, Texas keeps finding new ways to make it as impossible and difficult as possible for women to exercise their rights over their own bodies, to exercise their right to have an abortion. It really is, they're becoming more and more creative with these kind of bounty laws to try to get at the doctors outside of the state. And they'll keep harassing those doctors. Now the doctors, again, are protected by different bills that their states have passed that shield them from it. I mean, there are going to be legal challenges to that, and we'll see how that gets all resolved. But I think what I want to emphasize here is the extent to which people in states like Texas, are so focused and so malevolently pursuing this issue of abortion. And it's almost all men, but just the viciousness. And they're applying all kinds of creative ways to use the law, to do what? To prevent women from having a life, to prevent women from having control, to prevent women from living, for being in control of their own lives. This is why Hobbes was such an awful decision, because it unleashed these monsters and gave them room to act and to function and do all this. I mean, if you're a young woman, I can't imagine why you would want to live in Texas. Young women should all leave Texas. But it really is horrific. It really is horrific. And it's Texas, it's much of the South. Florida passed a similar law. I mean, you can be anti-abortion in the third trimester, you can be anti-abortion in the second trimester. I don't know how you can be anti-abortion pill, but they have to be consistent, right? God has told them that human life begins at conception, and that is it. But the extent to which this violates rights and the viciousness of it, just the sheer viciousness of it, is pretty despicable. And it really does make you question wanting to go to Texas, wanting to live in Texas, wanting to be around these people. These are the people who vote for this. These are the people who vote for this. Really, really despicable. Despicable. All right, let us, that is the news, guys, for Tuesday, February 3rd. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Thanks to all the super chatters. Remind you again, shows couldn't exist without you and without your support. So please consider supporting the show. We've gone for over an hour now, and we're a little short of the first hour goal, so please consider helping us at least achieve the first hour goal. But we're going into our second hour, so we should achieve the second hour goal. I will be leaving here at some point. I've got a debate I'm doing at Tufts University for the Undergraduate Federalist Society here in Boston. We're discussing whether a move towards laissez-faire capitalism will solve the problems that exist in our culture and in our world. I am going to obviously say yes, and I will have an opponent who says no, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Hopefully we'll get a good turnout of students. That is the goal, and the debate will be lively and fun. It is, I'm dreading having to go outside because it is very cold outside, but in and out of the Uber very, very quickly, so as not to have to be outside too much. It will now be streamed on YouTube. They are not, I don't think they're filming it, and they're certainly not streaming it. All right, let's see. What are we doing? All right. Let me remind you of some of our sponsors. The Ayn Rand Institute is a sponsor of the show, and they're promoting the conference in Porto, Portugal. If you're under 34, you can still apply for a scholarship for that conference, and if you're not and you'd like to come, there's a fee. You can get a discount, 10% discount on the fee by using the discount code 26YBS, YBS10. 26YBS10. I'll be there. Ankar will be there. Talsvani will be there. It'll be a fun conference, and a lot of objectives from Europe will be there. I hope you guys show up as well. Certainly from Europe, there are a lot of fairly reasonable flights coming into there. I'm sure there are places to stay that are fairly cheap. The hotel is very nice, and I don't think very expensive of the conference. So yeah, I hope to see many of you there. To find out more information about the scholarships and about the conference and about attending, check out aynrand.org/start-here. aynrand.org/start-here. Alex Epstein is a sponsor of the show. Alex is the world expert on all things energy and all things fossil fuel and climate change and environmentalism. And check him out. Check him out at alexepstein.substack.com, alexepstein.substack.com. Alex will provide you with knowledge, with information, with data, and also knowledge about what's going on right now in Washington, D.C. in terms of these issues. He provides talking points and makes you a much better communicator about these ideas. And Michael Williams. Michael Williams is the man behind defendersofcapitalism.com, defendersofcapitalism.com, which is dedicated to the defense of capitalism. It's a program right now that teaches at the leadership program of the Rockies, which is an amazing program. And I encourage you to check out the website, check out the program, and get involved. I'm part of the program, and Michael is a great guy. All right, let's see. I want to also remind you that you can become a monthly supporter of the Yaron Brook Show, which is incredibly valuable because it's predictable, and I just get every month, and that way it can get out of your consciousness. You don't have to worry about it. The trade between me and you, value for value. The easiest way to trade with me is to become a monthly supporter on Patreon or PayPal, PayPal.com or Patreon.com, and just put Yaron Brook Show and sign up. You can go $2 a month. You can go $1,000 a month. Anything in between is fantastic. You can also make one-time contributions. I think that's easy on PayPal. Patreon is but both. You can do monthly, you can do one time. So please consider doing that and consider participating. We're traders after all. Remember, you're getting a value. I'm doing this. You're watching it for free. I'm not doing it for free, but I'm not doing it for free. I'm doing it if and when I get paid. So you guys have been incredibly generous. Please continue being so. Thank you. All right, let us turn to your questions. Let me see. Here's the super chat. Thank you. Oh, great. Well, Amin, $200 questions. Thank you, Amin. Amin is getting us to our first hour goal all by himself. Please consider joining him and supporting the show. Don't let Amin do it all himself. Anyway, Amin says, shame on CNN for being such an outrageous mouthpiece for the mullahs in Iran. Yes, I mean, generally, the mainstream media has been unbelievable mouthpiece for Iran, the Iranian regime, justifying or at least whitewashing the slaughter. Where's the outrage? You saw people get outraged about Gaza. I mean, it didn't stop. Where are all these leftists out in the streets demonstrating against the Iranian regime? Yesterday there were the Grammys, I think. And the Grammys, they complained about ICE. Good, I'm all for complaining about ICE. But not a single person in the entire Grammys, not a single one of these political activists who seem to care about human rights all over the world, not a single one of them mentioned the slaughter that happened in Iran. Not one. I mean, the reality is that Iran doesn't fit into their paradigm. It's not white men oppressing brown people. It's not the West colonizing and oppressing the East. It's not successful Jews defending themselves or aggressing against, native again brown people. It just doesn't fit their agenda. This is a Islamist regime that from its earliest days was supported by the international left. The, particularly French leftist intellectuals supported Khomeini in 1979. I mean, he was very smart in that he included a lot of socialist propaganda in his sermons and thus tried to convince the left that he was one of them and then killed them all after the fact, after he had gained the power. But they had to be suckers. They have to be idiots to believe him. They willingly believed him. They thought that the Islamic Republic of Iran stood against the colonizers, against Europe, against Western civilization. And that's why they supported it. That's why they loved it. And even, almost 50 years later, almost 30-something years later. No, wait, it is 50 years later. What am I talking about? Almost 50 years later. They still rationalize the evil away because it's not evil if it's done by non-white people. It's not evil if it's done by anybody other than Western Civ. That's why October 7th didn't bother them, because it was done by poor Palestinians. And the fact that the regime is killing its own people, the left is completely willing to buy into the fact that the own people, the people who would dare stand up to this wonderful, amazing Islamic regime, are just being manipulated by the West, just being manipulated by Israel. And that's, and so their support is not with them because they're just agents of Israel in the West. I mean, the Iranian conflict, the conflict in Iran right now between its government and its own population, if that is not a pure concretization of the fact and the response to it, a concretization of the fact that what animates the left in the West is hatred of the West. It's hatred of Western values, it's hatred of Western ideas, it's hatred of Western civilization. And if you're not part of the West, you can get away with anything. And they don't care. The last thing they care about is actual human life. I mean, if you see the stories of the people who've been shot in Iran, it rips your heart out. I mean, I find myself tearing up reading Twitter, X, when they describe the stories of these 17-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 27-year-olds, who have a whole life in front of them, and yet, went out to fight went out to demonstrate, went out to express their desire to be free. And these are the people that get no respect by so much of the West, particularly the left, but you don't see the right caring that much either. I mean, who cares? There's a fraction of us who actually care. it's so discouraging. It's, the West is bankrupt. It's bankrupt. It's corrupt, not because Western civilization is bankrupt and corrupt. It's bankrupt and corrupt because it is turning its back, stabbing and turning the blade to Western civilization. The West is becoming uncivilized, unbearable, barbaric. And part of that is the support for barbaric causes. And this is why there's no way the European left, or people who are sympathetic to the European left, can deal with the problem of Islamism in Europe. Just, they can't, because their instinct, their inclination, their ideology demands that they appease them. And if that appeasement leads to the end of the West, wonderful, they will say. The West is nothing but an evil on this earth. They hate themselves, they hate the culture from which they come, they hate the civilization that made them, they hate everything about where they live. And that is what animates them. That is what animates them. And sadly, that is overwhelming majority of the left, and it's a significant part of the right. I'm not sure who's left to defend civilization. Okay. Thank you, Amin. Amin also says, I am also horrified, another $100, thank you. I am also horrified Witkoff is anywhere near Iran-related discussions. Yeah, but he was there for the Gaza stuff, and he's there for the Gaza phase 2, trying to get Israel to compromise and accept Hamas, even if they don't disarm. He's there for Iran. He's there for, and who does he side with? In Gaza, he's pushing Israel to accommodate Hamas. In Russia, he's pushing Ukraine to accommodate Putin. And here, he's pushing the Trump administration to accommodate the Iranians, and pushing Israel to get off their high horse and stop demanding so many things. He is on the side of evil consistently, uniformly. And it's just horrible. It's just horrible. And again, how many people are raising their alarm about the evil that is Witkoff? There's just not enough voices out there, and there's not enough, nobody takes seriously American interest. There's no America first here. There's Witkoff first, and Witkoff benefits in one way or another from appeasing Putin, from appeasing the Iranians, from appeasing UAE, from appeasing Qatar and Turkey. We forgot that another Trump emissary, Barak, landed up appeasing the Syrian government and the Turks, and basically stabbing in the back the Kurds, who have been the one ally that the United States has had in Syria and Iraq. It's stunning. You go over and over and over again, and the people who are the worst people are getting the most power and the most visibility within the Trump administration. Witkoff on the diplomacy side, Miller on the immigration, ICE side, Bondi on the so-called justice side. Just the worst people you can imagine in these positions. Thank you, Armin, and thank you for the third $100. Really appreciate it. He says, I agree, it's been too painful to watch. Yeah, it's one thing if these kids are going out the streets and they're fighting for freedom and somebody has their back. And remember, Trump said he had their back. Trump said, go out into the streets, I have your back. He said that. He posted that. He encouraged them. And then to turn your back on them, to make it so that their deaths mean nothing, that the fight is destined to be lost because Trump is a coward, because Trump is an unprincipled, thuggish bully who is afraid for some reason of the Iranians, is just beyond, it's hard even to talk about because it's so infuriating. It's so maddening. I do think that some people who supported Trump, if he really does cut a deal with the Iranians, I think this will be a turning point for them. I think. I don't know, but I think. Some people, not all. because it's just so disgusting. Jake, thank you, Yaron. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate the support. Thank you. All right, we've got just a few questions, and then we're done for the day. Once we get through these. So if you want to ask a question, get it in really, really soon, because we are running out of time. All right, let's see. Okay, Jim. An offering for the Wi-Fi gods. Thank you. It seems to have worked so far. AJ, I didn't mean you should stop posting at all. I just, you have to find a nice middle ground where it's not post after post after post after post. Just once in a while, post. Participate. It's good to participate. It's good to be engaged, and it's good to. It's good for the algorithm, by the way. So I'm not objecting because of that, but I just think if you engage in conversation with people, it'll increase. It'll be better for everybody. But AJ says, Israeli music artists, please, Dr. Brook, any leads? I'm not saying, I'm not saying these are great artists. These are just my favorites. These are people I really, really loved, but I grew up with them. So a lot, popular music, you're attracted to what you grew up, because popular music, it does not evoke deep emotions. It does not evoke a deep emotional state. It evokes memories, and it evokes certain shallow emotions, but it definitely evokes memories. And when you're growing up, and you associate the music you grew up with memories of that time. And that's when I heard it. The emotions are deeper, they're more meaningful. So this is Israeli music that I listened to in the 1970s when I was a teenager, and the 1980s when I was a young adult. That's the music that stuck with me. So people I like, Arik Einstein, Shalom Chanoch, what's his name? The other problem is, of course, I can't remember names. Arik Einstein, Shalom Chanoch, Mati Kaspi, Shlomo Arzi. That's 4 for you, right? Arik Einstein, Shalom Chanoch, Mati Kaspi, and Shlomo Arzi. Those 4. They capture most of the great music from that era that I love and enjoy. CP Milken, Jonathan, thanks for being a consistent voice of reason, liberty, and Rand's ideas. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. Wyatt, Peter Schwartz says, doing right thing for the wrong reason is wrong. Does that apply to leftists who want open immigration because the U.S. is stolen land? Yes, absolutely it applies to them. That's particularly wrong because by advocating for something right and associating that right thing with something as evil and as stupid as stolen land, they make the right thing, the open immigration, they void it. They make it. I would object. I object to it because I object to the idea of stolen land. If that's the causal relationship, then I object to the conclusion. So yes, they do damage. They do more damage than good. And look, so absolutely, particularly when they articulate. It's one thing if they just go into demonstration and object to ICE, but once they're articulating their reasoning for doing it, it's a problem. And but it's broader than that, I would say. If the whole case for immigrants is associated with really bad leftist ideas, then it weakens the case for immigrants. And it makes it very difficult for us to make a rational case for immigrants because people out there, maybe people like Wyatt, immediately label me and others leftist because they associate the ideas of pro-immigration with the left. Now that does damage. So yeah, I agree with Peter completely, and it certainly applies to that case. All right, last 2 questions, guys. Andrew, thought both upholders of mysticism was Plato, though both upholders of mysticism, was Plato honestly trying to explain while Kant was dishonestly trying to deceive? Look, I think that's what Ayn Rand is saying, and I think that's certainly true of Plato. I think he's trying to understand. I think it's coming from a desire to understand the world in a long, long time ago when knowledge was limited. Whereas Kant, I think, knew better. And you remember also Kant is coming after the Enlightenment, where better ideas were presented, and he is, I think, purposefully trying to destroy those better ideas. Kant has at least the opportunity to know better. Plato probably doesn't, although he does have a brilliant student called Aristotle who challenges him. But yes, I think generally we are much more benevolent, and objectivism views Plato with much more benevolence because of where he is historically, and because there's a sense in which he asks the right questions, and views Kant very malevolently because where he comes from, when he advocates for those ideas, and how ultimately dishonest or destructive the ideas he comes up with are. And again, The Cave in the Light tells of how Socrates embraced death and thought every person should, as death frees the soul from the limits and distortions of the body. Aristotle's discoveries gave rise to a focus on earth and life. Yes, I think Aristotle is this world, this earth. And Socrates and Plato are otherworldly. You know, the soul continues, and there's a world of forms, a world of perfection that is not of this world. It's in another world. All of that is otherworldly, and it's not an accident that Christianity, particularly in its early years, in its first 1,000 years, 1,100 years, was attracted to Plato. And it's attracted to Plato because Plato kind of gives a philosophical facade to the mysticism that is inherent in any religion, but is inherent in Christianity. So they are very Neoplatonists, and they embrace Plato. They only later discover, or are willing to embrace parts of Aristotle to the extent that they can use him to enhance the dogma. They're not really seeking truth, but they're using it to enhance the dogma. But Plato is Christianity. Christianity is Plato, and because Plato's ideas are very much of the other world, otherworldly, and that's what Christianity is. It's otherworldly. All right, I think this is the last question. Newly Dan, I read Atlas Shrugged, The Fountainhead, and few of Rand's essays. Should I start OPA before Ayn Rand's Objectives to Epistemology book? I don't know. Both are good. I think OPA is probably better, and then go to ITOE, which is the epistemology book, because I think Leonard covers much of the epistemology, but in a more structured way than ITOE does. And then you can get ITOE and go into the nuances that Ayn Rand covers in that book. So I think read OPA, read OPA next, and I would say keep reading Ayn Rand's essays. I think the most valuable tool we have out there is Ayn Rand's essays. But OPA gives you a systematic approach to objectivism, gives you the entire system of thought in a way that you can't get anywhere else. And then Ayn Rand's essays fill in all the gaps and explain how to apply it, and explain how it works, kind of in its application to the real world. And of course, the Objectives to Epistemology book is a technical book about epistemology, if that's what interests you. Incredibly valuable, incredibly insightful. But I think after OPA. All right, guys, thank you. You guys came through in the end, particularly Armin. Armin did most of the lifting today. So I really thank you, Armin. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks to the rest of you for being here. Don't forget to like the show before you leave. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Don't forget to go to Patreon or PayPal and become a monthly supporter of the show. Thank you, guys. I will see you all not tomorrow, but I'm hoping to do a show on Thursday. Not sure when, and then probably Monday after that. So not many shows in our future, but a few. See you soon. Bye, everybody.